Hello, listeners. Before we start, I just want to remind you you can listen to Nighttime early and ad free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
You are listening to Keep Canada Weird, a weekly weird news roundup by the Nighttime Podcast.
Handsome Aaron Airport, episode 166 of Keep Canada Weird. Seeing as our episodes average about an hour per episode, I did a bit of math, and we're almost at 7 straight days of Keep Canada Weird, if listened consecutively.
Yeah, we should do that sometime. A several-day, nonstop marathon recording episode of Keep Canada Weird.
I have a feeling it would get really awful after about... with our track record, after about 50 minutes, we would play some seniors eating ice cream stories, and then what would we do?
I think it'll be really cool when we start to hallucinate with lack of sleep.
It could get interesting.
Yeah. You're covered in hamsters. I'm covered in snakes.
Our special drinks have long dried up.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, let me unveil what I got tonight. I'm a sucker for limited edition flavors. Pepsi just unveiled a limited edition flavor here in Canada called Pepsi Electric Zesty Citrus. It's blue, bright blue. I don't know what chemicals they had to put in it to make it this blue, but...
So is that zero sugar, or like what's the story?
Yeah.
Really?
It must be sweetened with whatever craziness makes it that blue.
Well, electricity.
Yeah. What, you got something?
That's what it's sweetened with. Oh, nothing special, man.
It's always special.
It's always special, you're right. But I'm back to a staple. Zero sugar, zero caffeine, Coca-Cola. That is my life tonight.
Before we jump right into the listener-contributed voicemails, anything you want to say about the last week in your life?
No, I don't like to wear too much on my sleeve in this show, but I will say the weather has been gorgeous lately. A string of very nice days. So I've been outside, breathing in the air and getting in some nice walks in some parks. So I've been enjoying that.
I've been loving it, except it rained all weekend. It's so unfair. And I would love to see statistical data for like where the sunny days versus the rainy days fall in the context of weekdays and weekends. It rained all last weekend in Halifax, and it's scheduled to rain again all weekend this weekend, which is a burden, but it has been gorgeous. I've noticed the June bug population thriving. I walk across my lawn in the morning. I hear the crunch of them under my shoes. And at night when I'm going to bed, I hear them banging their crunchy bodies against my window, just like we talked about last week. By bringing up the topic of June bugs last week, we have a listener named Amy who wants to talk a little bit about June bugs and maybe change our opinions on this often misunderstood insect. Here's some June bug facts from Amy.
Hey guys, listening to the newest episode of Keep Canada Weird, the June bug story, and when you said they were bashing their crunchy bodies off your window, it made me laugh. A lot of people are grossed out by them, but they don't realize that June bugs are actually the croutons of the earth. They are high in protein, and a lot of animals benefit from eating them. They also don't bite. It's their little legs that have stickers on them. And they have fuzzy little bellies if you actually look. Harmless.
Based on the accent, could you have any wild guess where Amy's from?
I would say Cape Breton.
That sounds a lot like Cape Breton Island to me. I don't like to think about the June bug's grabby little legs or their fuzzy bellies. I think those things are disturbing. That's why I hate the month of June.
I always knew that they were harmless, and I never feared for my life when being struck by a June bug outside in the nighttime. However, I have no desire to go in for closer inspection. I'm not going to look at their fuzzy little bellies. I'm not going to examine their, whatever's going on with their legs and whatever things they have on it. Yeah. Not interested. I will never harm one intentionally. I will stay out of their way. If they promise to please stay out of my way, that's my biggest issue with the June bug, is it flies wherever, whenever, with seemingly no strategy at all.
Yeah.
So when I'm trying to mind my own business outside, the birds stay away for the most part. The Not all the insects do, but the June bugs, man, sometimes they crack me off side of the head, and it's just, please, it's just gross.
It's disgusting. Well, let's get into it. Our job here is not to understand or appreciate June bugs. It's to keep Canada weird by seeking out and highlighting the unique and offbeat news stories that played out across this great nation over the past week. And my goodness, tonight we have a doozy. I've said this before, maybe 166 times, but I'm going to say it again. Tonight's episode will be the best episode of this show because the collection of stories is just so off the wall. But let's start with an update. Last week we provided an update and thought we kind of broke the story of Kenzie on the lam. That was the young woman who was released from prison, set up a TikTok account, and has been baiting the cops ever since about how they'll never catch her. Last week we talked about how it seemed to be kind of an anonymous hacker type person who sent in a letter and to prove a point and had her released from prison, only to set up this kind of bizarre comedy of errors that played out ever since. Well, there's been another massive development in the story. In a way, it's the development we've all been hoping for, but in another way, it kind of turns the whole thing on its head. Here's the story of Kenzie no longer being on the lam.
They are not gonna catch me.
That's 24-year-old Mackenzie Hardy, and just one of the videos she posted to TikTok while on the run from police. Videos police say helped them track her down in Revelstoke, BC on Tuesday.
She's quite active on TikTok, kind of taunting police, taunting the courts, as she was on the run from police, and it garnered a lot of attention.
But Hardy wasn't alone. Police arrested her alongside her boyfriend, 27-year-old David Joseph Wood. Police say the duo was walking away from a stolen vehicle. Police say it was Wood who helped Hardy escape and have charged him with assisting escape of prisoner, identity fraud, and uttering a forged document. Hardy told us she didn't know how she got out.
I seriously think it's a government mess up. Because I was supposed to go for bail 2 weeks after being released. Like, I had a bail plan all worked out with my lawyer.
After that interview, an anonymous emailer contacted Global News claiming to be the person behind Hardy's release. They sent what appeared to be the fake letter that tricked the justice system into releasing her, and emails of conversations which appear to be between a Crown prosecutor and Justice Department employees. The emails use the name of a real Crown and an email address that looks similar to the ones used by Crown attorneys. Dan Jones says since this case deals with a non-violent offender, he says it feels like it could be a sitcom episode.
She would be caught eventually, but if she was wasn't on social media, there would not be anywhere near the attention to this case that there was as a result of what she did.
Hardy is now charged with escaping lawful custody on top of the charges she was already facing. She and Wood are being brought back to Alberta to appear in court.
We've been following this story for about 3 weeks now. This is what we've been waiting for. It does feel a little bittersweet, though. We wanted her to either be arrested while live streaming, or we wanted the police to publish a video of them arresting her. Neither of those things happened, but at least we don't have to hear that voice anymore. You're not going to catch me.
Until she escapes again.
I don't think she will. They're going to put her in like...
Hey, another letter can be drafted.
Well, who knows?
This story has gone far enough where I actually want her to escape again.
Oh, really? You're now on her side.
I'm now on her side. Yeah, you know what? I just want to see how she does the next round.
Were you
Can you imagine how arrogant she would be with her social media if she got out again?
Could you imagine? It would be interesting, and I like a nice train wreck. It's already been a train wreck. A second release would certainly be pretty wild. I'll give a quick update on her GoFundMe. If you recall, last week we talked about how she was trying to raise $5,000 to cover her legal expenses and her boyfriend's kind of like medical related expenses. The GoFundMe was not a success. She was, at the time she was arrested, she was still at only one donation of $50.
And who is that? Do you think it was herself? I think it was herself just getting the ball rolling on the donations. Like,
I think
it'll just take a couple, little nudges to get these donations going.
That's a possibility. I'm sure people do that sort of thing. But we got to talk about the elephant in the room here. Her boyfriend, David, was also arrested, and the charges he faces relate to uttering forged documents, identity theft or identity theft related crimes, and assisting like an escaped inmate. And if you think of those charges, it sure sounds like her boyfriend David is behind that anonymous letter that got her released. And if so, he is also behind trying to get the police off his tail by writing to the media and get global news to report on it as if it was this random technological vigilante.
Yeah, and they don't say for sure that he is being charged as the one who wrote the letter. Like perhaps there's other forged documents that are at play here that we're unaware of. Because deep in my heart, I just do not believe that either one of these people are capable of hatching and executing that escape plan with the forged document and then following it up with the pretending to be an anonymous tipster that
The misinformation campaign that followed successfully. Yeah. Well, I think just based on the charges, again, he's charged with assisting the escape of a prisoner, identity fraud, and uttering a forged document. So if you recall, the anonymous letter was made to look like it was this certain like judge or whatever. So that would be someone using that judge's identity fraudulently. A forged document. It was forged documents that got her out of prison. And he was also charged with assisting the escape of an inmate. Like, I think the writing's on the wall. The police seem to believe they have a case that he's behind it. And if so, like, that's the shock of this whole story, is that these dimwits managed to come up with this. Yet they couldn't be smart enough to not create a TikTok account.
Well, that's the thing that's so conflicting about this whole thing. If they didn't create the TikTok account, then I would assume that her boyfriend was behind the letter. But the fact that they fumbled the escape so poorly, that it just doesn't make any sense to me that he's capable of doing this. I just don't believe it.
Are you suggesting we continue to follow this story by reporting on the trial and perhaps even going and attending?
I'm suggesting that one or both of us forge a document and send it in saying that all charges for both of them are dropped.
Both of them, get them both out.
Get them both out, and then they can come on the show and tell their story.
Yeah, that's maybe that's what we'll do. We'll think. Actually, I'm going to start drafting the letter. So let's take a quick break from the show here. When we come back, we'll have the letters drafted, but we'll also have some wild stories, starting with a creepy misunderstanding in Guelph. Right after this break. All right, Aaron, we're back, and we're back with two chilling stories that played out across Canada over the past week. Let's start with a creepy misunderstanding in Guelph, Ontario. This is a weird one. Lately, we've been on a roll with our stories having a conclusion, and this is going to be a darker example. It's a story I've been monitoring over the last week. Given the sensitivity we all have as a result of the disappearance of two children in Nova Scotia, stories related to kidnappings and the stalking of children really strike a chord. This story that we're going to follow today begins with a Facebook post made by a landscaping company in Ontario that describes their crew being approached by a distraught group of children who claimed that they were being followed or chased. As the post got amplified via clicks and shares, the police, of course, reacted. Here's the first news coverage about a suspicious woman in Guelph.
Good evening. Police in Guelph are trying to track down the people involved in a strange incident. They say a landscaping crew reported that some kids had run up to them saying they were being followed by a stranger earlier this week in the Silver Creek Parkway and Paisley Road area. Let's go to CTV's Jeff Pickle now for more on this story. Jeff, what do we know at this point about what might have happened?
Well, Tony, much of this stems from a social media post where the landscapers say these two young kids came running to them terrified, saying they were being followed. They say a woman approached them but then quickly left the scene and the young children were taken home. The suspect is described as an Asian woman in her early 20s, about 5 feet tall, in a blue sweater, gray track pants, and black shoes. Police say so far they have not been able to track down the kids involved and say at this point it's a suspicious person investigation. So again, police are looking to identify and speak with all people involved, and anyone with information about this is asked to contact Guelph Police.
So what we see here is not too uncommon. This is an example of a Facebook post or some type of social media post going viral, stirring up a whole bunch of concern in an area to the point that the police need to address it with like a press release or a statement and just look into it in some way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not being there to see how scared the kids were or what the situation was. These landscapers obviously felt that this was a dire situation that had to be rescued in social media land. So,
Yeah, like I wonder if they called the cops that day or did they just go on Facebook and write like, watch out everybody, I had this thing happen to me today. I couldn't find the social media post, so I'd be kind of curious what they had to say. But this is another story that will be solved within the week. Here's what the news had to say a couple days later.
An update tonight on an incident reported to Guelph police last week. Officers now say there was no criminal intent in a case where it appeared that two children were being followed. A landscaper said that two young children had come up to them and said they were being followed by a woman. The woman left the area on foot. Police say they have since identified and spoken with the children, and it now appears the woman was just walking on the same trail. Police are characterizing what happened as a misunderstanding.
Oh my God, what a waste of everybody's time. I guess you got to take it seriously though when it involves like kids maybe being followed by this, maybe deranged person. But no, it's case closed. It's been solved. They were just walking in the same direction.
yeah. So, has anyone talked to the kids about what was it? Because multiple people can walk on the same street at any given time, and it's normal. So, what was it about how this woman was walking that triggered these children? And has anyone talked to the kids and asked them, why did you run up to a bunch of rogue Facebook landscapers and tell them that you were being chased by a demon woman?
I don't know if anyone did. And we don't maybe there's a bunch of little kids. Maybe it was a bunch of teenagers that were pulling a prank and just trying to get these landscapers upset. Who knows what was going on? But I just think that this got so much airtime and that the result in the end is they were walking on the same trail and it's a misunderstanding is a pretty pretty comical way to end this.
Yeah, it reminded me of yesterday, actually. I was out for a walk, and sometimes I'll walk in my neighborhood and I'll walk like all the way down to the hospital, and I'll turn around at the hospital and I'll come back. So I was walking and I was just about to hit the hospital where I would turn around, and this young kid, some young boy was walking in the opposite direction as me on the same sidewalk, just at the point where I always turn around. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh no, this kid is like just walking past my turnaround point. If I turn around there, it's going to look like I'm seeing this kid turning around and then following him.
So you're just extending your walk.
So I had to extend my walk further down past the hospital, further than I would normally go, in the no man's land, I like to call it. And I don't know what dangers lurk in that area. It's unmapped area for me. So
you could have ended up being followed down there.
I could have been the one that, and God knows, maybe there's some landscapers down there or no landscapers for me to go to for help.
Yeah, well, that could have been bad.
No matter what I'm going through in my life, I'm going to start approaching landscapers for the solutions.
Well, they're a lot more accessible than police officers. Like you walk around, there's landscapers everywhere. What we need to start doing is like deputizing landscapers and give them some basic law enforcement training, public safety training. God.
No, I think we need to put them above the law.
Oh, really?
They're not just like neighborhood watch landscapers. These are an organization of highly skilled individuals who are above the law. Mm-hmm. In fact, I will not call 911 ever again in my life. I'll be calling my local landscaper.
Mm-hmm. They're like the James Bond kind of thing, like the 00 kind of classification, maybe.
Well, think of the weapons they have too. They could travel on their ride-on lawnmowers, and they have weed whackers that they could wield as a weapon.
Yeah, and then of course all the weird little shovels and tools and stuff. They know how to build fortifications out of rock,
and they know the neighborhoods inside and out.
Yeah, I guess this interesting. an interesting idea, and one that I think we'll save it for the next election. It'll become an election issue. Let's move on. I promise you 2 concerning stories. Listen to this. On Keep Canada Weird, we've been tracking the increased tension between humans and animals, something that we've referred to as the animal uprising. Well, the story of a plane crash in northern British Columbia may be connected to the phenomena that we've been observing. At least it may be for those who can read between the lines. Here's the story of the recovery of a downed airplane and the porcupine who may have brought it down.
Things are pretty tranquil right now for this porcupine everyone's calling a prickly passenger after an absolutely epic journey from northern BC.
She happened to crawl into a wreckage of a crashed plane up north.
And when the plane was recovered,
it was airlifted out by a helicopter because it was in a remote location.
Somewhere north of Prince George, the wreckage of the small plane was then put
on a trailer and driven further down south all the way to Kelowna,
where the spiny stowaway was finally discovered by the salvage company.
Wedged between 2 seats inside the aircraft.
But after 3 days of transport, the poor porcupine,
she was dehydrated and hungry, and she was also scared.
Hartman was called in to help deplane the roaming rodent, managing to tranquilize the stressed out porcupine without taking a single quill in the incident.
They are very timid animals. They are not aggressive at all.
The cute little quill pig is now recovering in an enclosure at the Interior Wildlife Rehabilitation Society.
According to Hartman, this well-traveled porcupine's journey has one more leg, as they plan to release it back into the wild within the next couple of days in the same area it was found in northern BC.
First off, the porcupines are very cute. Based on what I saw in that video, I enjoy porcupines. Secondly, though, did no one working on this story listen to any episodes of Keep Canada Weird? Because I think the elephant in the room in this story is like they just assumed that the porcupine climbed into the downed aircraft. They didn't even entertain the idea that the porcupine downed the aircraft.
No, they didn't, and that's still the unanswered question that we have in front of us here is, was the porcupine in the aircraft and took it down? Was the porcupine crawling in after the fact? We don't know. Knowing what you and I know about the animal uprising and what the animals are capable of, I'm leaning towards that the porcupine took this plane down when it was in the sky and survived the crash and is now going to report that information back to the animal overlords.
Yeah, and they're bringing the porcupine right back to where it all started. You say survived the crash. Is there even evidence of a crash, or was this like maybe the porcupine took over the plane and it wasn't a crash? It was just like a bumpy landing. You know, he's not a pilot.
In my mind, the plane crashed and the porcupine survived the crash.
Okay, well, I hope so. Oh, but I guess maybe that didn't necessarily have to be a part of the plan. This could have been a bit of a kamikaze type mission.
Yeah,
where the porcupine
was
willing to go down.
Yeah, could have been,
Okay.
A mistake happened, and who knows? A lot of information we don't have here, but
yeah. Well, the problem is they had the wrong journalists on the job.
Yeah, because they're not asking the hard questions here.
Let's take an ad break. I'm going to draft up a application to that news agency to see if they want us to take over this story. When we come back, we have 2 of my favorite stories that have ever been covered on Keep Canada Weird, and we're going to do them back to back. It's going to be 2 stories about ghosts after this break. Aaron, I know you're a movie guy, especially like comedy, 80s, 90s era movies seem to be your thing. Do you like Beetlejuice?
I love the first one. Yeah, the original Beetlejuice. We can't say his name any more times now because that's twice. And as any fan of that movie knows, you say that name 3 times he appears. So now we're at our quota.
Yeah, I loved the first movie. I didn't see the second movie.
Oh, I saw it.
I'm
It
going to
sucked.
someday. Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, don't watch it. No,
It's just,
don't.
it's pointless. The first one is just so perfect. The idea of like catching lightning in a bottle twice, you don't even need to attempt it. But I get why they made it. But regardless, I'm a huge fan of the movie Beetlejuice. And that movie story of two ghosts dealing with the new owners of their home is what inspired me to include this next weird Canadian news story in tonight's episode. We're about to explore the haunting tale of Brian Kupiak. He's a British Columbian who spent nearly 8 years trying to correct an error on his credit report that flags him as being dead. Of course, Brian is not actually dead, but let's forget about that part, as this story is much better viewed in the context that he did die, and now his ghost is trapped in an eternal, bureaucratic credit score limbo. Listen to this, thinking of him as a ghost.
It says in black and white, deceased. Date, September 29, 2017.
For years, Brian Kupiak says he's been trying to convince TransUnion Canada he's alive. He says no matter how hard he tries, he can't convince the credit monitoring agency to change his status.
I can't go and borrow money anywhere because TransUnion has got me in as deceased.
The Enderby resident says his troubles began at the end of 2017 when his mother passed away. Brian says that's when his social insurance number had been accidentally switched with his mother's on her death certificate.
I had no idea that I was dead. I'm just, like, my pension stopped.
That issue was eventually cleared up, or so he thought.
I went to borrow money from the bank. I was buying a new house, and I just needed a couple of grand there to put down for a deposit. And my own credit union wouldn't give me any money.
Brian says he later discovered TransUnion Canada had mistakenly declared him as deceased. Brian says when he calls TransUnion to fix the error on his file, he's told there isn't an issue and keeps going in circles.
After 8 years, this is ridiculous.
I'm going to pull out of the news clip at this point. Does this not sound like this man is in fact dead and maybe died in whatever like tragedy ended his mother's life? Maybe he died along with her and he's not aware of that. Here he is trapped in an eternal limbo of trying to apply for credit to buy a house and being declined.
He's totally dead. There's no other way.
Even his voice, eh? Like,
that's what I said. I was going to the bank to get a loan to buy a house. Yeah, you're actually not allowed to do that to begin with. It's like it proves you can't afford the house is what it proves.
So, well, it gets a little weirder. So that's all a ruse. He's actually alive. And the story continues from that point. I just felt like if we stopped it at that point, it really seems like it's a ghost talking. Here's how it actually ended. And Brian, in the remainder of the clip, he does prove himself to be a little bit eccentric. Here's what actually ended up happening.
Brian says TransUnion has requested he send copies of his passport and driver's license by mail for verification. But Brian says he's uncomfortable.
With all the scams that are happening out there today, I mean, you don't want to send anybody any kind of private, information about yourself.
Consumer Matters reached out to TransUnion Canada on Brian's behalf. He says he received a call immediately, TransUnion apologizing and saying the error is now fixed.
I was no longer dead. I just felt this like, just wow.
TransUnion Canada wouldn't provide details about Brian's case due to privacy, stating in part, mistaken reports of consumer deaths are rare, but they do happen on occasion. TransUnion receives information from a variety of sources, and in some cases, incorrect data may be reported to us. Brian Kupiak says he's happy his information is finally corrected, now able to put a long and frustrating situation to rest.
Kind of as if like the ghost was in limbo, like between worlds, and when the collection agency managed to fix it, he was just off to heaven or whatever comes next. Mm-hmm. But what do you think of Brian refusing to send the credit reporting agency that information?
Well, he's claiming there are so many scams out there now. that he's afraid to give his information out to anybody.
I think they wanted his driver's license, was it?
Yeah, his driver's license and whatever. But what's now becoming a really common scam that people really need to watch out for?
What?
Ghosts pretending they're alive. That's the biggest scam that's happening right now, and it's catching people everywhere. So this ghost is trying to convince the government that he is alive so the ghost can apply for a loan. So that's what's happening here. We have ghosts looking for money, and they're scamming the living to make them believe that they're alive.
That is clearly what's going on. And just like every other consumer complaint we ever hear about on this show, all the ghost had to do was get on the news. Like, he's been fighting this for 8 years.
Yeah.
I'm not sending you my license. I'm not doing anything. He gets on the news, and the news calls the credit reporting agency, and they're on the phone with him apologizing.
And you know what he does as a ghost? And he tries to pretend he's human. So he tries to communicate human emotion. And he says, and then I just felt, remember that moment when he's like, he tries to like capture his feelings in a sound, and he goes, I just felt, It's like, no, we don't. We're alive. We don't know.
I promise you 2 stories about ghosts. Here's another good one. But this may be the first Keep Canada Weird story to actually make a whole bunch of people cry, because I thought this was pretty heartwarming. Now, we discuss lottery wins often. That's one of kind of our reoccurring things. If someone's in the news winning a whole bunch of money, it usually ends up being pretty interesting. But the lottery win we're going to hear about tonight is something altogether different. Here's the basics. An Ontario woman went to a hospital to visit her ailing sister. And while there, she purchased some even split tickets that were for some kind of hospital fundraiser. Weeks later, after her sister passed away, while she was sitting in her funeral home, she received a phone call she wasn't expecting. We get to listen in on the call because the organization who was running this hospital fundraiser shared it. Here comes the story of the heart-wrenching lottery win in Ontario.
Hi there, everybody. Shane here from Health Sciences North Foundation. Very excited to announce today's winner for May, our big jackpot, $548,718. We're super excited to give them a call and tell them the good news.
Hello?
Hi, Corinne.
Hi.
Hi, this is Shane Gordon calling from Health Sciences North Foundation. How are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm good. I'm actually calling about some HSN 50/50 tickets you might have purchased. Do you remember grabbing tickets on May 8th at the lottery kiosk here?
Yes.
I have some kind of incredible news about those tickets.
What?
I am calling you because you won over $500,000 playing the HSN 50/50.
No! I just won over $500,000. Science nerd. Oh my God.
Congratulations.
I bought those tickets when my sister was there. Oh my God.
Who else was with you?
My brother-in-law, and we're at the funeral home right now.
Her sister just passed away,
Oh.
and she was in Health Sciences North and bought the tickets when her sister was there.
Oh my goodness.
So this is a blessing in disguise
Yeah,
for
I'm
sure.
so sorry to hear about your loss. I do want to give you the exact number if your heart's ready to hear it.
We're ready for the number when you are.
The number is $548,718.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
Unbelievable.
That's a roller coaster. When I see something like that, I often think it's a setup. Did that seem sincere to you? Like, do you think that was actually them calling her without her knowing the call was coming?
Is sincere? I was trying to figure that out when I first watched this video. And because so many times they stage that because they want to make sure the person is home and is going to answer the phone and whatever else, all the, scenario that they have to have in place in order to have this be a videotapable situation. But But her reaction is so genuine that I think they just called her at random.
I think so too. And even before they reveal that she won, when they're like, is this so and so? Do you remember buying the ticket? She seems like just a little confused. Like, yeah, what? Like, what is this about? Like, she kind of like has that kind of feeling. And then when they tell her, it's like she's laughing and she's crying at the same time. And the fact that she's sitting at the funeral home dealing with the funeral for her sister, who she bought this ticket because she was at the hospital visiting her sister. Now she's planning her funeral. Like the whole thing is just such a roller coaster. It has to, like, I feel like it has to be some sort of divine intervention kind of thing to lead to this happening. That's why I kind of classified this as a ghost story.
Right, right. I think that's going to get a little complicated though, because why people have people in their lives passing away all the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, why
and
would
and many of these people are lotto players. So how come this situation, if divine intervention is at play here, why them and not the others?
Yeah, that's true. Like, what if her sister can make it so that she wins the lottery? What did we all do wrong that led
Yeah.
to our deceased loved ones not helping us out in this substantial way?
Yeah.
But it
Why
would
is my grandmother sitting on her ass and doing absolutely nothing up there?
she's just chilling. But it would be hard not to see it that way, though. It's just the way it all comes together. It's a perfect ad. Like, I believe it to be genuine, but if it wasn't, it would be a perfect ad for like a hospital foundation, lotto foundation. But that said, I don't think the hospital wants to advertise like, the people are dying here.
Yeah. Lose a loved one, gain $500,000.
Yeah, while you're here, like quickly buy the lottery tickets while you're here in our hospital, because when your loved one dies, you may have better odds.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably one in a couple hundred.
Yeah, I guess maybe it wouldn't be. I think it wouldn't be a great marketing move. So I do think this is genuine. It's just a pretty amazing story, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely, when you're going through the situation of losing someone so close to you, and then all of a sudden you're told that you've won $500,000. Yeah, that's a lot of emotions to feel at once.
Hell yeah.
And hopefully she's able to process all of this, because I know that would be overwhelming to deal with.
Yeah. And 548,000, that's a lot of money. I could do a lot with that. Pay off my house, buy a new car, put enough money away so that my two kids can have full university college paid off. And the rest of it, I'd probably just sit in my bank account. I'm too practical.
What if your children decided not to go to college? Would you take that money back, or would you let them keep it?
I would let them keep it, but it would have to go towards something to better their lives. Like it could be used for a down payment for their house, or maybe to buy materials for their trade that they're going to start. Maybe they're going to become landscapers, so they need a truck and bulletproof vest. They could use it for that.
There's a lot of training that goes into being a landscaper,
It's true. But that's what I'd do with it. What would you do?
With $500,000?
Yeah, $500,000.
Oh man, my cat would get a brand new cat tree. I would put the rest away in savings and invest it.
I actually got an email yesterday. Someone said, I've been listening to Keep Canada Weird. Aaron mentions his cat on occasion, but I never can make out the name. Why don't you just answer that question now rather than me responding to their email?
Sure. His first name is Ken, and his last name is Tiggs, Tiggs. So it's Ken Tiggs.
There, question answered. It's time to start wrapping up this episode, but we never just go out with the weird Canadian news stories. We got to go out on listener voicemails. I have a duo to bring us out on. Do you want to hear about seniors eating ice cream, or a rant about a McDonald's in Ontario?
Let's end on the seniors eating ice cream, because that is kind of our thing lately. And so let's start with the McDonald's rant.
Okay. All right, let's do it. This is a listener named Ty who is very unhappy about the way a McDonald's has been treating her.
Hey guys, it's your correspondent Ty, originally from Winnipeg and now living in Ottawa, and evidently dating a man who lives in Kingston, who's part of the Canadian Forces. And when you're near the Forces base in Kingston, there's a particular McDonald's that you might find yourself frequenting. When I tell you, I have given this particular McDonald's 3 strong attempts to make my morning because there's nothing I love more than a hash brown, a large double-double, and an Egg McMuffin BLT. But the key word is trying, because it has somehow gotten significantly worse every attempt that I've taken to get this order correct. And here's the problem. Here's the part where I might be the problem. And that is that I'm a child who doesn't like tomato on this particular sandwich. But I have tried to order this Egg McMuffin BLT, or BL as we should say, with no tomato and extra sauce. And on the third time, I really thought they were just playing in my face at this point, because not only did they put the tomato on it or leave the tomato on it, I was given extra tomato and no sauce. Have you ever had a sauceless sandwich from McDonald's? Not to mention, how did they even, on the Canadian Forces base, allow you to order something so mischievous? Like ordering 2 extra tomato and no sauce on a breakfast sandwich should have set off several security alarms at the federal level. Because there's only one type of psychotic villain that would order such a thing. But yeah, if you work at the McDonald's at CFB Kingston, don't spit in my food, but please do take the tomato out and put the extra sauce for the 4th time. I'm begging you.
I hope Ty feels better getting that off their chest. I can relate to that. I too enjoy a BL.
Oh, you also don't like the tea.
No, I like tomato sauce, I like ketchup, but actual tomato, I find the texture gross and the taste weird. I don't like tomatoes.
But it's a BLT, so I feel like you just want a breakfast sandwich with lettuce.
Well, it's like bacon, lettuce, a little bit of mayo, which is certainly required. If not, like she says, that'd be such a dry mess. In their defense, if they put 2 tomatoes on and left off the sauce, those 2 tomatoes are like juicy enough that maybe you could be like, she probably doesn't want sauce just because she has so many tomatoes. Like this, I see why it didn't stand out to them that they thought she didn't want sauce. You know, like when they get your order wrong, it sucks. You're usually going through the drive-through. You don't realize the order's wrong till you're way down the road. You don't want to go back and get out of your car or get back in the lineup. It sucks.
Right. Yeah, it's frustrating. I can understand that, especially when it happens over and over again. So I feel for you. I support you. I don't agree with your order itself. I think you need that tomato on there for it to be a BLT. You should just change how you ask for it. Just say, I would like a bacon and egg McMuffin with lettuce and extra sauce.
Yeah, that's kind of like a life hack.
It could be. Maybe it'll work because I think the people who are taking the order when you say BLT are stuck on the BLT thing.
Yeah, they just got that in their mind, those 3
and
letters.
They're so programmed to put tomatoes on a BLT. So that's my suggestion.
That was a great way to see both sides to that argument, Aaron.
Thank you.
Now let's move on to the senior ice cream story. This is a really good one. This is Keith's dad, who invested heavily in hard ice cream.
It's Keith, your intrepid correspondent from Manitoba, smoky Manitoba at the moment. I wanted to follow up on the elderly and hard ice cream situation. And my father, who has passed on, loved hard ice cream. And one year after Christmas, he saw a sale on eggnog ice cream and bought approximately 20 cartons of it. We ate that all the way through the summer and into the fall, and I can never have eggnog ice cream again. Interestingly, for one of his last meals, had black cherry ice cream, which was definitely one of his favorites. Thanks for keeping Canada weird.
Have you ever heard of eggnog ice cream?
I've heard of it, but I've never had it. And I'd love to try it.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. I don't blame his dad for getting 20 containers of it. If I saw it on sale, I'd have a hard time not doing that, even having never tried it. It does sound great. Keith says for one of his last meals, he had like a black cherry ice cream. Was it like when you hear last meals, you think of like death penalty, prison kind of talk? I don't think that's what's going on.
Yeah. What's your last meal at when inevitably you are on death row?
I'd have a hard time not going with American Chinese, like the fried rice, chicken balls.
Yeah. Beef and broccoli or something. Yeah.
Yeah, beef and broccoli. I could see something like that. And then after I had my like stereotypical American Chinese food, I would then want a big piece of apple pie, heated up with ice cream on it, and a coffee.
Yeah. And a cigarette.
I was just about to say, and hell, I'll have a cigarette too.
Yeah. Mine would be like a large just combination pizza and a giant chocolate milkshake. And a cigarette.
And a cigarette. Yeah, and both of our meals, like after it was done, I would be so just like exhausted. Like the Chinese food, the pie, the coffee, the cigarette. I'd just take me, Lord. I wouldn't even put up a fight. I think that's why they give you this great last meal.
Well, the plan is to eat. The plan is to eat so much on my last meal that I want to die.
Okay, so you need
that way. I'm like, oh, God, get me in there. I am so stuffed.
This was a good episode. I said at the top of it, this may be the best. We've gone through this 166 times. If we're getting a little bit better every time, maybe we've just hit perfection here on episode 166. What do you think?
Yeah, I never agree with you when you start the episode to say this is going to be the best ever. And so I refuse to agree with you that this was the best.
I accept that. We can agree to disagree. Let's put a bow on this. Handsome Aaron Airport. Until next time.
Jordan, bus stop, backhoe Bonaparte. Until next time.
I got the letter drafted for Kenzie and her boyfriend. We'll take care of that when we finish up tonight.
Okay, great. I'm looking forward to sending that and freeing our freedom fighter. And fighters. Now it's plural now. Yeah, her boyfriend is involved. And Jordan, until next time. Although alive now, you and I will at some point in time be ghosts, and I sure hope that as ghosts we are still doing this podcast.
I want to thank you for helping Aaron and I fulfill our mission to keep Canada weird. If you've got a news story from your area that you'd like to share with us, or have any thoughts or theories or opinions on anything we discussed tonight, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us by using the voice recorder that can be found at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. And on that topic, I want to give a big thank you to this episode's correspondents. If your voice message was aired tonight, you can email me your address. My email is nighttimepodcast@gmail.com, and I'll get a Keep Canada Weird badge and swag pack sent out to you. I just ask that you wear the badge proudly and responsibly. Next, a big thanks goes out to Aaron for another great night, Nicole for the intro and outro voiceovers, and Monty Data for the outro version of O Canada. And then, of course, a sincere and massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening. Your support makes this show possible. And if you'd like to support the show even more, please consider a subscription to the premium feed, which can be found at nighttimepodcast.com/subscribe. The premium feed costs just a couple dollars a month, but that money will fund the creation of new episodes of the show, and it'll give you those episodes 2 days early, ad-free, and access to a back catalog of episodes. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the show by sharing this episode on social media. That helps a lot too, and it's free. Your support is very much appreciated. So with all that said, until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and together, let's keep Canada weird.
Keep Canada Weird is written, hosted, and produced by the Nighttime Podcast.
I was no longer dead. I just felt this like, just wow.